What's going on, everyone? Kareem Abdul Jabbar has started a podcast. It's a Lakers podcast, and this is what he had to say about it. I just started a podcast, and I hope you like it. These are going to be private conversations between me and my Showtime teammates. I will be releasing new episodes every week. Enjoy. So, Kareem Abdul Jabbar has officially launched his podcast called the Skyhook the podcast, which I am super excited for, and I'm sure many of you in Lakers Nation are as well. To get a peek behind the curtain, we're seeing like the Legacy documentary, which has been fantastic, and I do want to do like a little review and breakdown once we get some more episodes. We only got the first two, third one should be coming up, and I definitely want to explore all those possibilities and things like that. But we're seeing this sort of like push in like Lakers content, right? You had the HBO show, which had a bit of a controversy in both aspects, but it was entertaining nonetheless. And when it comes to a podcast, I mean, that's like content 101, right? Everyone's making podcasts and creating podcasts because they're easy, fun type of content. And from a Lakers standpoint, like that would be fantastic to hear one of the greatest Lakers, if not the greatest Lakers, one of the greatest players, if not the greatest player, just spilling the beans on just the life of the NBA, playing with his teammates, talking to James Worthy and, Magic Johnson, just breaking down all of the ins and outs. I mean, just think of all like the Showtime Lakers, even like guys like Kurt Rambis, you could have quite a array of just different conversations, different topics, and especially a weekly podcast. I mean, you have content forever, and then start diving into, the more modern guys like LeBron, things like that, and just kind of get a peek behind the curtain. Even talk to Pau. You could even do like a Kobe remembrance episode, like which would be fantastic to hear Kareem's perspective of Kobe from when he came into the league to, when he retired. All of those things. Like it's a cool opportunity for Laker fans to kind of hear the ins and outs. Because it's one thing to hear a podcast from, somebody like me, Laker fan, that's just, talking Lakers, talking the history, or, some other channel is like just, breaking down like past events and stuff like that. It's another thing to hear from the guy that actually lived it, that actually did it, that was through the ins and outs, that was, winning championships, that was playing against Bird and the Celtics and, and had that competition with Magic and kind of explore like the Legacy podcast and stuff, or Legacy documentary and stuff. Like, all of those things, I think, would be really genuinely entertaining. It would just be so insightful, and it would be something to just listen to him. And he is an incredible speaker. Kareem Abdul Jabbar, like when you listen to him talk, he's an excellent engager, excellent storyteller. He has that voice and that dialogue that really just draws you in. And so to see him put that to use and put that to work, especially after life, after basketball, I think is awesome. People, every time there's an interview with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, what are they asking about? Him and the Showtime Lakers and, stuff like that, because it's tied to his legacy. I'd even love to hear about like the Milwaukee stuff, like when he was on the Bucks. I would be interested just in his life. Of course, it'd be awesome to have like a Laker-oriented podcast, but like still won a championship with the Bucks. He still was established and dominant back then as he was with the Lakers. I would love to hear like his thought process, hear like the ins and outs. Like, why did he go from Milwaukee to the Lakers? What was the thought process? How was it winning that first championship in Milwaukee compared to, winning the first championship in LA? Like, all of those things I think could be really fascinating. Just kind of get a peek behind the curtain. Like, I'd love for him, and I hope it's honest. I hope it's thoughtful. I hope it's something that he is willing to sort of put himself out there. I'd love to hear about his life behind the scenes in many ways. I mean, it's been so long. Like, you could pretty much say whatever you want now. Nobody's going to hold it against you to back then. Like, I would love to hear that because, especially in the times in which he played basketball, late 70s, 90s, or 80s, those kind of things. Like, I'd love to hear just kind of like what was it like in the NBA during that time from his perspective, from his thoughts. What was it like being the all-time great? What is it like, being a high school champion and people just praising you, and then you go to college, do the same thing, and then you go to the pros and you're just this winning juggernaut everywhere you go. What was it like, being that level of superstar back then compared to now? If LeBron passes, which I do believe he will this season, past Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I'd love to hear his perspective because he's going to be at that game. Once LeBron gets close, he's going to be at every game that LeBron could potentially pass him at. And so I'd love to hear sort of his process. Like, how did he feel in that moment? What was it like? When he embraced LeBron, was it, was he upset in a way? Was he, did that competitive nature take over and go, man, like, maybe I need to get out there and score some more points. I mean, he's got that skyhook. I'm sure he could probably put on a Laker jersey today and get us 10 points a game. But in all seriousness, I think that it's really cool to kind of be able to get into the mind of, an all-time Laker great and an all-time great player, period. Because there's very few that have been to the level and achieved what he has achieved from a basketball standpoint. And for him to be able to break that all down, have those dialogues, have those discussions, go through the ins and outs, especially with his teammates, especially with Magic. I'm sure the Magic and Kareem episode is going to be huge. And I want them to get personal. I want to hear them kind of push the boundaries a little bit. Like, express how you felt in the moment when Magic came in. We're seeing all this stuff with the Legacy documentary. I'd love to see the two of them sit down and kind of hash that out. I mean, it was great to see Kobe and Shaq when they had that moment. They had that interview with each other and they kind of just broke it all down and they really expressed how each other really felt. I thought it was very honest and very true. And I thought it was an amazing moment to see translate because you had these two guys at a pinnacle that probably could have won several more championships, but their egos and just everything got in the way and they ultimately ended up breaking up. And then there was those disputes like throughout years, and to see them kind of reconcile and work it out, I thought it was again a very powerful moment. And I'm not saying Magic and Kareem were to that level. Obviously they worked it out and they won championships still, and they were able to play together and stuff. But still, there was clearly tension. There clearly was animosity. There was, like when if you watch the Legacy thing, they talked about how Magic got offered, $25 million for 25 years, and Kareem was upset about that. He's like, dude, I'm the guy. If he's worth $1 million, what am I? You got this kid. He's a rookie. He's coming in. Like what am I worth? God, I got to be worth $10 million, or $20 million a year. So let's do that, And so I'd love to see them really just be able to have an honest, deep conversation, just back and forth, just kind of, airing it out. I think that could, again, be a very awesome perspective, a little peek behind the curtain. I don't know how in depth they're going to go with this. I don't know how, how real are they going to get in these conversations. I'm sure to a degree they will, but will they go full-fledged, full force, that kind of thing, and just really let it all out on the table? Or is it going to be kind of more structured, more, polite? I mean, either way, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not against it either way, but I think that there's a real opportunity here for just Laker fans, NBA fans, and, Kareem and all of the Showtime Laker players. I'd love to see, Michael Cooper, things like that, just break down and talk about the history. Even talk to guys like John Sally. He's great at interviews, great at conversations. I'd love to hear kind of his story and his thought process, because he's talked a lot about, the Lakers and the Pistons back in the day and stuff like that. I think you could really expand even beyond the Lakers. Obviously, this is going to be a Lakers podcast, and you want to keep it kind of focused on the Lakers, which you can. I mean, you got to understand, all these other star players and all these other star teams all had to play against the Lakers. They all got to experience it. They all had to show up and guard guys like Kareem and Magic, and Byron Scott and Kurt Rambis and James Worthy. And, you had to go and show up night in and night out against these guys. I'd love to see the perspective from other players that got to play against them in the league. And what was it like when you played the Lakers? Was it terrifying? Or did you have that, oh, tonight's the night we're going to beat the Lakers? I just think there's so much perspective, so much things that you could break down and go into. And the beauty is it's an actual player that was there, that went through the process, that was on the Lakers during that time, that was able to see all the ins and outs behind the scene, that was the superstar and in many ways the face of the league, stuff like that. I think that is huge. Where, again, it's not somebody like me that's like, hey, I'm starting a Laker podcast and I'm going to break down all the history of the Lakers and stuff. Yeah, it's probably going to be entertaining. Yeah, you might enjoy it, but I can't give you the perspective and just the details and just everything that goes into it the way Kareem Abdul Jabbar can. So I think that there is a far greater level of just excitement and just perspective that no one else can give you. Unless Magic decides to start a podcast or something, I just don't see anybody being able to break it down the way that Kareem could do. Even lesser guys, like, let's say Byron Scott started a podcast, right? I don't think he could give you the same perspective as Kareem, because Kareem was just such a different level. He was the guy night in and night out. He was the guy that defenses were, spending their entire defensive scheme centered around, all of that stuff. I just think it's a completely different type of podcast and content. But anyway, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think about this? Are you excited for it? Are you not? Is this something you're going to watch? Is this something you want perspective on? Do you want Kareem to really go in depth, really go heart to heart, really, sort of open up and, give us the ins and outs? Is there anything specific that you'd like to see it from Kareem in this podcast? Is there, any type of specific conversations or behind the curtains or stuff? I think that there's a ton of potential, a ton of room, a ton of growth. There's so many things that they could do and really just break down for all of us. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely excited for it. I think it's, as a Laker fan, this is a Lakers channel. I think that this is something that could also give us material and content and stuff to talk about and engage in. I think that this is really good for Lakers Nation as a whole. But again, however you feel about it, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.